Hey, and welcome back to the number one podcast in the world, the Cellarcast, episode 104. I'll tell you, I'm a little bit tuckered out today. It's Father's Day when I'm recording this, and I am not a father. That's not why I bring it up. Because I talked to my dad, and I was kind of thankful. I was like, "Hey, happy Father's Day" this morning, and he goes, "Well, thank you." And I said, "Well, do you have anything you want to do?" And he's like, "Not really. Kind of just want to take a me day, as opposed to every other day, which are not him days, I guess." And I was like, you know what? I'm cool with that because I just had a busy last couple days. Well, an occupied last couple days. I spent them with Kat because she had the honor and privilege of being part of she was part of a fashion show at a Macy's up in San Francisco. It was like a last minute thing. It was like for Pride Month, and they were doing like a last minute. Well, no, it was there's some kind of urgent opening. She had a friend from college who was like, "Hey, there's this fashion show, and they really need a trans person." They got some chasers at this Macy's. They call it Chasies. And she applied, and within like a day or something like that, like really fast, they picked her up. So really short notice. And so she had a rehearsal a few days before the show at the Macy's, which means that she had to go all the way up to San Francisco. And it was gonna get out kind of late, and she didn't feel that comfortable leaving, taking public transit that late, which is understandable. So I decided to I went up and joined her basically, it was a dual purpose. Number one is wanted to obviously make sure that she's safe and get her home safe and all that. But two is I had to go up to film some footage. Let's just say for an upcoming video. I went to, so if anyone who knows about San Francisco or different areas of San Francisco is going to laugh at this. I went to the Castro, to the Castro district of San Francisco, a historically gay neighborhood, because it is relevant to an upcoming video. If anyone's going to guess what it is, you're not clever. The Castro, it's been around for, God, probably as long as San Francisco, and San Francisco was always it's kind of funny. San Francisco always had kind of a gay subculture, because being a port town, it attracted a lot of men, a lot of single men hanging out, sailing with no women for long periods of time. And, hey, maybe something happened. So the Castro is a really gay part of San Francisco. It's a little district. It's on Castro Street. It's between like roughly 18th and Market. I decided to go there to film a little B-roll. I just walk around. I've never really been down there. I think we drove through there one time when I was a kid, just on the way to somewhere else. I'm like, oh hey, this is that gayborhood, That's all I knew about it. So I went down there, and I gotta say, it was pretty nice. Like legitimately, if you're visiting San Francisco, check out the Castro. It's very clean. San Francisco is kind of like a ratty, dirty shithole, in my opinion. I hate San Francisco, I really do. But the Castro is pretty nice. Like it's like these queers know how to sweep a street. It's very like friendly. Like it felt nice to be there. just walking around by myself, getting some shots of some businesses and things like that. There's a lot of businesses with, some funny names. There's a pizzeria. It's called the Sausage Factory. Like perfect. Yeah, it's exactly what I want. What I want out of a business in the gayborhood. Just, I didn't talk to anyone, but just kind of walked around, and naturally, because it's Pride, there's a lot of rainbow flags and different flags. Excuse me, mostly rainbow, but all sorts of different things down there. But just a really friendly vibe. A lot of nice people. Just I don't know. It was nice. I would legitimately recommend checking it out. Just to stroll down the street. And take it in. It's neat. And then once I was done with that, I walked all the way down the block. It's a couple blocks, and then looked at the map, and to get to the Macy's, I stop right on Market and just make a right and basically just head straight for like an hour. Because I didn't have to meet up with Kat until after her rehearsal was done. So I start walking down Market. And Castro, very friendly place, very nice. The further you get away from it, the more so I've been playing a lot of like the Street Fighter 6 World Tour mode, and you know how like you'll be walking around the streets, and you can generally like avoid fights and all that, and then you walk into like a parking garage, and a little like danger thing will come up in the corner. That's kind of like the area that the further away you get from the warm, soft embrace of the gays, the more of the danger zone you enter. And like, it was light out. It's summer, so it stays light out till like 9 or something like that. It's still light out. There's like hundreds of people around me. It's a big street. I'm not worried about a crime happening to me, right? I'm not scared about getting robbed or assaulted or something like that. But, there comes a point where you're walking down the sidewalk, and these are pretty big sidewalks. It's a very walkable city, is one thing about it. It's very big sidewalks, and, in front of me, there's like a horde of like 50 guys, and they're all wearing like all black with ski masks on. They look like minor enemies from like Watch Dogs. And I'm like, okay. And they're just like hanging out across the entire, like in a little blob on the sidewalk. And I'm like, okay. And I look across the street, and there's another one. There's another like identical mob over there. I'm like they're the gatekeepers of like 21st Avenue or something like that. I'm like, okay, all right, just stand up straight, put my put the face on, and walk through, and just hope nothing happens. And nothing did happen, right? I did bring like a pocket knife that I kept on me, just cause nothing happened. Never had to use it, of course, but just didn't want to take any chances. But other than that, it was fine. It was a fine walk. I don't like being in San Francisco, but it was fine. It went okay. And then we got back to her place so late that I wasn't going to take the bus. Talk about a place I might actually get mugged. It's the bus at like 10 p.m. So I just decided, you know what? It was a Thursday. It was Thursday, and the show was on Saturday. I said, you know what? I'll just stay until Saturday and go home like Saturday evening or something like that. So that was when we just like kind of hung out for Friday and then went over there Saturday. I'll get to what we were doing on Friday because oh boy, you can look at the timestamps. Oh boy, did we watch some things? But we did we went to the show itself at the Macy's in Union Square in San Francisco, and so I showed up. We showed up. We had to go through like the employee entrance on the side of the building where you have to like let someone unlock it for you, and and stuff like that. I felt very like, ooh, I'm like important. I'm like a secret agent or something like that. And we got there pretty early. Actually, it was before we had to get let in before the mall even opened. And I was just, I was there with her. I was like the only person who was like a guest. I guess is how I would classify myself. I wasn't one of the models. I was just like her plus one. And so they let me into the green room. I mean, where else are they gonna just gonna leave me walking around the mall? And it had food. It was basically like a Starbucks breakfast. They had croissants, they had danishes, they had cookies, they had orange juice. I was like, oh, they had bagels and cream cheese. I was killing it. I was living large. And I just kind of like sat in the room. And because it's like a Pride Month modeling thing specifically, I'm the only like straight guy there. I'm the only like straight cis guy. There. So I'm the outlier, and I'm just kind of sitting there. Just so, one, I'm just munching away, and two, I'm just letting them do their thing. I'm letting her talk to all her model friends, and I don't know. It's so funny because I just hear. I don't think they knew. Like they still, like that meme, like they still, like no one knows that I'm straight. The guy at the corner of the party, that was me. No, they still don't know I'm straight. So just like the way that they would talk is like so funny. Like, oh god, I used to be in the closet or whatever. And dude, being straight was the worst thing ever. God, I don't get nothing like, I don't know, offensive. I wasn't offended. It was just funny. And then by the time they went out for like to do a couple run-throughs of the, an extra practice before the show itself, I had like 2-3 hours, and that's the 7th floor of that Macy's where they keep all the couches. I found a really comfy couch on the Thursday when I was there, and I was waiting for her. So I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going up to that comfy couch. So I sat up there for a while and then kind of made my way down. You know what's funny? While I was waiting there, they have cameras. They have cameras on that floor. Like, who's gonna steal a couch? Down like an elevator? I don't even think you can buy. You don't even buy the couch straight from there. I'm pretty sure they have like a warehouse or something. You can't transport it all the way down there. To like the elevator? No, it wouldn't work. Well, anyway, the show itself was great. I thought she looked great. I got a lot. She was gonna kill me if I didn't take video, so I took a lot of video of her. I thought she was the best looking person there. Not biased. I'm not biased at all. I'm a 100% here at the Cellar. We support ethical, objective journalism, and in my objective opinion, I think she was the best looking person there. No, she was great. It's like, I don't like going down to San Francisco. I think it's dirty, and I don't like the vibe. I don't like the people. Maybe I'm always like, my head's on a swivel the whole time. I feel very like, I don't like being there. It's cramped. There's too many people. I don't like big cities in general. I don't think. I don't like being there. And goddamn, I also don't like being at very loud places. And this show, woo, dude, there was a young lady, lady, next to me. You never know, she was the loudest human being on the planet Earth. I like the every decibel. I was convinced that she was convinced. Like every decibel she hit was like a state, a country around the world, legalizes gay marriage or something. She was breaking the sound barrier, and she was dude, she was getting all these like little comments in. It was a little much, you know. It was a little much. Like, there was a lady and who was like one of the organizers, and she came up before the show and she was like, hey, you know, we're here to celebrate the yada yada. And then, oh, by the way, we have a Father's Day sale going on in Macy's, so check that out. Look at the men's section. And this woman next to me, she just belts out, she's in the front row too. She goes, not all fathers are men. And and like the organizer lady comes over and like gives her a high five. And I was saying, you know, I'm like I like to think I'm socially, you know, a pretty progressive person in a lot of ways, right? Like, I've got no problem with the lig bits. I got no problem with any of these or different, the gender. Yeah, I don't care, you know. I think you should be able to. I feel like I'm disclaiming this too much and it's getting suspicious. My point is, that was a real head scratcher. I didn't get that. Can someone give an explanation for not all fathers are men? Because I was sitting there, I was thinking about this for like 5 minutes, and I was like, what? Is it like when someone like a parent who like transitions or something? Well, wouldn't you, if you were like a father, right? And then you like transitioned, wouldn't you just call yourself like a mother? Wouldn't that be, or like, do they mean like if you're like a non-binary person? Wouldn't it, well, then you wouldn't be a father. Wouldn't you just call yourself like a parent, which is the gender neutral term? Would it, like, I don't understand it. I don't get it. It was like, it was one of those things I heard and I'm like, is this getting out of hand? Are we, I'm not understanding anymore. I'm not, you're going to have to break this down for me. Anyone who has any idea what that means, leave a comment below. Yeah. What I do know is that she was getting her points in, dude. She was getting points. Dude, like every single model who came up, they would like walk up to the front and then they would walk past us like down the aisle, right? And then this lady next to me, she was like fucking like National Geographic, getting down on the, like doing like a combat roll, getting down on the ground, getting all these angles. I think she was a friend of like one of the people at the show. I was like, this is, you know, I appreciate the enthusiasm. It's just a little much for me. But it was great overall, you know. And I mean as much as I'm making fun of it. So I'm making fun of certain aspects and how much I hate San Francisco. But that's the thing, right? Is that like all this stuff of things that places I wouldn't usually be, things like that. As soon as I saw her come up in this really cute little dress, I was like, oh man. This is so worth it. She's awesome. She's so pretty and beautiful, and I love her. And it's all worth it. So that was like that was my weird runway experience. Actually, funny enough, while I was waiting during the rehearsal, there was a fellow who was, I think, the choreographer. And I was just waiting. They went like over, it was supposed to end at like 8, but they didn't get out till like 8:40. And they were just practicing in the mall. So I went down to the floor they were on, and I just kind of was like, oh, they're still going. Okay, I'll just wait in the corner or something. So I'm just waiting in the corner watching, because I'm like, any minute now, and it was, 40 minutes, for like 40 minutes. And then he walks past me, because I guess he figures that I was, waiting for someone. He walks past me, and he goes, you should be in the next one. And I was like, oh, thank you. And then in my head, I was like, do I look gay? Do I sound gay? What does that mean? What do you mean by that? Hey, we're doing one next year. You should be in that one. Do I look like do I look queer? I'll accept the compliment, I guess. But hey, it was a good time. Anyway, while I was at her place on Friday, we watched a couple things. Jesus, I spent 20 minutes on that? I guess I did. We watched a few things. Two films in particular. One of them is the next installment in our Nickelodeon marathon. We spun the wheel, and it landed on Charlotte's Web from 2006, based on the classic book from, it's from like the 50s. It's from like 1954. I don't know how, I was thinking about this, just because I know that I have like a lot of international viewers on this on my channel and my podcast. I was thinking, like, I wonder if that's just like a really American book to read. I don't know if people in other countries, or especially non-English speaking countries, know about Charlotte's Web. It's like a classic children's book about a spider helping out a pig not get slaughtered by writing words in a web to like make the farmer think that the pig is some kind of like miraculous presence or something like that. It's a sweet book. It's a cute book. It's like it's like introducing your child to dying, and accepting that things die, animals die, things like that. Realities of the world, like, hey, pigs get slaughtered. Hey, that happens. It's a neat book. And I think like everyone like interacts with it at some point. If you're a kid growing up in America throughout like elementary school, you're gonna probably read it at some point or have it read to you. And there's an older adaptation. When's it from? Hang on, Charlotte's Web. Also, apparently, Charlotte's Web is the name of a brand of like CBD oil. Not that. 1973. Yeah. It's an animated film by Hanna-Barbera. So it's I remember that movie. The one thing that stuck with me from that one is Charlotte the Spider. Like her performance, she has a little pixie cut, which is kind of funny. But I really do love, who's the actress? Debbie Reynolds, yeah, plays Charlotte. Her performance, her vocal performance as Charlotte is so memorable to me. Just such like a warm, comforting, very like motherly character. Just like exactly the kind of feeling that character should have, like guiding Wilbur the pig through, who's like a newborn essentially, through the world. Like really like memorable, like nice performance. And then in 2006 there was a live action adaptation. It was like a live action talking animal movie kind of thing, I guess, in that trend. And it's fine. We landed on it, and we've both seen it before. It's one of those things, like, you're gonna, like, at some point in elementary school, you're gonna read the book, and then you're gonna watch the movie, because you need, like, a reward, and they're gonna show you a movie as a reward. So it's gonna be Charlotte's Web. Excuse me. So, like, we'd both seen it, and we basically knew what the experience was gonna be. It's a perfectly fine movie. It's a good adaptation, as far as I remember from the book. The performances are pretty good. The CG is decent, especially for the time. Yeah, there's really not a lot to say about the 2006 Charlotte's Web movie. There's some, I guess, there's some 2006 writing conventions in it. Kind of like, okay, you know how there's like an epidemic of like Joss Whedon dialogue in modern film where everyone's got to be quippy. There was like a different form of that back then, of like, especially in like family movies with talking animals. This was such a common thing. Like with the CG talking mouths and stuff like that, of we're gonna cut to, like, you can't get that many, there's not a lot of animals that you can train to do like a lot of different kinds of humor, so you have to make them talk. You have to make them talk and be quippy and make little comments. And it's got a crazy cast. Hold up. It's got a crazy cast in it. So like all the barn animals, where the heck? Okay. All the barn animals, they just make you got, so Dakota Fanning is the little girl who saves Wilbur and takes him in as her pet. Julia Roberts is Charlotte. Oprah Winfrey plays the goose named Gussie. I know it's Gussie, but Gussie. Steve Buscemi is Templeton the rat, my favorite character. It's like casting Steve Buscemi as a rat is such a funny thing. He's great at it. Like his voice is great for it. I love Templeton. Templeton is such a good name for a rat. I knew a guy in elementary school who had a rat named Templeton. Perfect name for a rat. John Cleese, Cedric the Entertainer, Kathy Bates, Reba McEntire, Robert Redford, Andre 3000 plays a crow. Dominic Scott Key is Wilbur. Just like all of the, it's one of those really like, it's one of those really, we're gonna get a bunch of celebrity voices to do this family movie, and they're gonna be making little quips and jokes, and we're gonna have, and they're gonna go nuh-uh, and they're gonna be like sassy, and it's that, you know, you've heard it, you've probably seen it before. It's very of its time. Yeah. Not a whole lot to talk about with the 2006 Charlotte's Web. Oh, there was one moment where it's the scene where the farmer announces that he's taking Wilbur to the state fair, enter him into the livestock show, and everyone's cheering for Wilbur, and Cat goes, "Do a flip," and then he does. Which was like insane. It was like on cue. She goes, "Do a flip," and like a second later, he does a CGI flip. It's really, that was like surreal. Like she manifested that. So we were like, yeah, just. It was like, okay, and we didn't want to watch like another Nickelodeon movie. So what did we ended up doing? We watched that Thursday evening because we couldn't get to sleep. So Friday we were like, you want to watch The Flash? That's it for the Charlotte's Web segment. We were like, you want to watch The Flash? And I was like, of course I want to watch The Flash, because she showed me those leaks of like all the cameos in that movie. So we watched a shitty cam rip of The Flash because we weren't gonna pay money for it. Excuse me. And it was kind of like the perfect quality to watch that movie in. It's a real like cam rip feeling movie. I don't know how to describe it. You know, when we watched like the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 on a cam rip, I was like, man, you know, I kind of wish that we'd be able to watch this in some kind of high HD or something, but it's going to be months till that, and I didn't want to go to a theater. This, I was like, yeah, this is a cam rip movie. I don't care. So specifically, it was a French cam rip. What they had done, what we eventually figured out, is that it was a French screening. It's probably how it was uploaded so early, because the film just came out. And it was, I'm assuming that because of like time zones and weird staggered releases, it came out like a day or a few hours earlier in France. So it was the French dub of the film, but then someone had taken, I guess, the English audio track they'd gotten from like a separate recording. They'd taken like the English audio track and just synced it up to the French dub. And we discover this because at one point the characters are talking, and like 10 minutes into the film, they just start speaking French with like a hard cut. And parlez-vous? And it's like really funny. And there was like a constant advertisement for like a slots, for like a slots casino website. At the like just a watermark somewhere in the video, and it was really funny. It was a funny way to watch it. Eventually, so we did. Okay, so we watched The Flash. A little bit of context. So the star of this film is Ezra Miller, who has people call them will refer to them as embattled, which is a very polite way of saying they're getting their ass beat. They're getting their ass beat in the quote retweets. Ezra Miller is an actor who had some kind of a mental thing and assaulted a bunch of people in Hawaii and then disappeared, and then it came out that they were also allegedly, not convicted, but allegedly groomed like a 13-year-old girl into being in love with him. And she's like Native American, and she and her family live on like a reservation, so the laws, and they have their own kind of like courts, and like the laws are weird, and like territory law, so it's like nothing's been like convicted or anything like that. But they Ezra Miller did beat up some people in Hawaii and then go like underground for like months, and there was like 6 months where no one could find them. So like a little before this film came out, this movie has had an insane production history. A little before this film came out, the like director of cinematography or something said like, yeah, we're hoping that the quality of the film will make people forget about the crimes. That was the direct quote. We're hoping they'll forget the crimes. Which, like, if you have to refer to it as the crimes, you've already lost. Just cut your losses on this one, okay? Just don't say anything. This film has had a crazy production history. So we looked up the because Kat had mentioned to me that like it had been delayed because of like they started shooting around COVID or something like that. So we looked up the Wikipedia page that summarizes the whole production history. So they've been trying to make a Flash movie since like the 80s. And just nothing really ever got off the ground. Nothing ever really happened. There was like a slight resurgence of interest from some people like in studios around the time of like the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. But again, just nothing really came together. And then post Avengers, after Avengers, like around 2013, when it was like around the time Man of Steel came out, I think. That was when the studios, there was a renewed interest in like, we got to do the Marvel thing now, and let's make a Flash movie. Who do we got? We got the Flash. So this film went through so many directors and writers. The final script is a hodgepodge combination of like, I think there's like 40 people. in total across all the people who there was like 5 principal writers for different scripts. There was like one guy, Graham something. I'd have to double check. There was another dude like something Mayuide who'd done some other movies. I remember looking up that he seemed like he had a handle on it. Chris Lord and Miller were at one point wrote a script for a Flash movie, and then they left the production. They left the script because they wanted to go because they were going to go do Solo, which is really funny in like a tragic sense because they got booted off that. And then there was another guy who came in and wrote another script. So we're at like 4 scripts now. And then Ezra Miller didn't like that script because they were gonna because they established that Ezra Miller's the new Flash in fucking Batman v Superman. When he comes in like, oh, Lois is the key to all this, which never went anywhere. And oh god, so Miller went. I have to look this up now because this was so. Then 2023. So then Ezra Miller went off with Famuyiwa. That was that guy's name. He made Dope. Famuyiwa directed the 2015 movie Dope, which I always heard was really good. Kat said she liked it. I think she watched it. There's some duo named John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein. So then Ezra Miller in 2019 goes off to write a new version of the script with Grant Morrison, the comic book writer, the famed comic book writer for DC and I think probably Marvel. So the eventual script was this weird mishmash of like 5 or 6 different scripts, and it's also meant to be the jumping off point for the new DC universe. So by the way, the DCEU, as it's called, DC Extended Universe, that's not an official term. It comes from an article. There is actually no official term that they use at like Warner Brothers, the same way that Disney and Marvel have the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU. They don't have that at Warner Brothers. They just call them the DC movies. The DCEU, that acronym comes from an article that some journalist wrote, I think around the time Batman v Superman came out. And they were like, what, is DC trying to go for their own universe thing? Like, they should call it something really dumb. Like the DC Extended Universe. The DCEU, to get like a little acronym like Marvel. They should call it something really dumb like that. And then people just picked it up and ran with it. So it's like that's technically a fan term. So this is the new jumping off point for the DCEU, because every fucking actor who was like core to it doesn't want to do these movies anymore, because it sounds like a nightmare. It sounds like a nightmare to work on, like this franchise. Okay, so we haven't even gotten to the movie yet. So there's a couple things about this film. Number one, Ezra Miller is bad in it. I don't mean like as a person or a character, arguably a character. Ezra Miller, this is like a bad performance. I haven't really seen them in anything else. I think someone on Twitter said that I look like them in Fantastic Beasts, which fuck you for saying that. I don't think I've ever seen them in anything else. This is a bad performance. Like, they are not good in it. Their inflection is really strange. They're not... The Flash is written to be a funny character. but they're not funny or charismatic or likable. Not to me, at least. And some of that might be the bias that, like, Ezra Miller has done, like, really gross, bad things, and it's really hard for me to like them. But like, I just could not get behind their performance. It's also not helped by the fact that, okay, so the premise, this is going to be a full spoiler review, because fuck it, I don't care. If you could tap out now and just go to the next timestamp. I didn't like the movie there. So the whole premise of the film is the Flash is he goes back in time. He runs so fast. He discovers that he can go back in time by going faster than the speed of light. And he can go back in time, and he decides to use this to alter the past to save his mom from getting murdered. At the start of the film, they introduced that the Flash's... So basically, when he was a kid, his dad left to go to the store to get a can of tomatoes, which is central to the plot of the film, is the tomatoes. And while he was gone, someone broke into the house and killed the Flash's mom. But because they escaped right before the dad gets home, and the dad does not have an alibi to say that he did not kill her. So he is in jail because he was accused of on suspicion. He's in jail because they think that he killed his wife. And the Flash has been working. Barry Allen has been working on restoring security camera footage from the store to prove that his dad was there and that he was getting a can of tomatoes. And he feels some amount of guilt because oh my god, it's so fucking funny. It's so fucking funny. There's so many weird lines of dialogue in this film where, like, he's calling his dad from jail, and the dad goes, like, just randomly goes, you know that sauce, you know how you got that sauce on Sundays? You made that sauce on Sundays? And this is, like, before you know about the tomato thing, but I guess child Barry Allen used to make a real killer tomato sauce on Sundays, and his mom forgot the tomatoes at the store, so his dad went out, and that's why he was at the store. So he runs faster than the speed of light, and he goes, oh my god, I can, like, go into the past and stuff. And he comes right back, and he calls up Bruce Wayne, and Ben Affleck shows up for one scene that they filmed on a soundstage that took like 2 hours because he wants his check. Excuse me. He technically shows up in the intro. Oh, the intro. Oh, do I talk about the intro where he puts the baby in the microwave? Dude. So it's not terribly complicated. The intro of the movie is a very weird, like very jarring, right in the middle of an action scene where the Flash and Batman and Wonder Woman, because those are the three actors they could get for the movie to show up, are saving a hospital during an earthquake. And there's a bunch of babies, and the Flash has to save a bunch of babies. And they're doing a thing... They're doing a thing where the Flash is moving really fast. It's like so fast that everything's going in like slow motion or is basically still, right? And he's like moving things around and saving all these babies spill out of a window and the nurse and all that. And he saves all of them and all that in slow motion. And part of that is he puts one of the babies in a microwave. And then And then time like resumes when they're all on the ground, and the nurse is screaming, and there's a shot of Ezra Miller taking a baby out of a microwave and giving it to her. And it's the funniest. It's the shot of Ezra Miller holding a baby pulling a baby out of a microwave with a woman screaming is like horribly on brand. It's horribly, it's really funny. And oh yeah, before he goes to save the babies, there's like a vending machine that's falling in midair, and he's hungry, so he's like, he fucking smashes his hand into the vending machine. It's so funny. It's so funny. It's so dumb. There's a lot of Flash doing things in like super speed sequences in this movie. There's a lot of scenes like that. And I can see what they're trying to do, and I can see how they're like trying to make it funny, and they're trying to do the Quicksilver scene from X-Men Days of Future Past. I think that's the one with that scene. They're trying to do the Quicksilver scene. And I don't know why it didn't work for me. There's like a couple decent bits in the film with that and some of the action. I think the problem with a lot of those scenes for me is they weren't like fun. I don't know. They should be fun. They should be fun. Oh, we're going to set up a bunch of things and then go to regular speed, and then all this stuff's going to happen in a row or something like that. But the way it's shot is, I don't know, it needs like a better director with more interesting shot composition and more energy, I guess. It felt like it lacked some energy, which was weird. But anyway, so Batman goes, no, you can't go back. He's like, I could go back in time and save my parents from dying, or my mom from dying. And Batman is like, he says the line, the scars we have make us who we are, which is like a trailer line. But there was like a subtitle track that we had on for the movie, but the subtitle track was like, I think auto-generated, and it wasn't vetted very well. So a lot of lines are just wrong, and that line was not subtitled properly. So that led to me tweeting out the completely incomprehensible sentence, race car we have, make us who we are. Which we laughed about for like a minute. Race car bed we have, make us who we are. my race car bed. It's so funny to me. And the Flash is like, okay, fine, whatever. And then I don't know, some shit happens. There's a character in it. Her name is Iris West, and I vaguely remember that she existed because I remember hearing about the Snyder cut of the Justice League, where her character had like a whole plot line that got cut in the theatrical release. That was then, it was in the Snyder cut. And they kind of just assume that you've seen the Snyder cut and you know who she is, I guess. So yeah, she's in the movie, and I guess Barry has a crush on her or something like that, or he wants to like impress her. She's like a reporter. I don't know. Anyway, Barry says, fuck it, I'm going super fast. So he goes back in time to the grocery store where his mom was buying groceries. And while she's buying the groceries, it's really funny actually, because the way they present it, the way that it's, the effect is, he like pokes his head out of a little hole in reality, and it looks like that one shot from Thor: Love and Thunder with the kid's head like floating. It's really funny. And he grabs a tomato can and puts it in like super speed. He puts it in her cart, and then he like stops to look at her, and like one last time or something. He hasn't seen her in years since she died, and he excuse me. And he leans in and he whispers, "Don't forget the tomatoes." Don't forget the tomatoes. Which is really funny. There's just so many it's like, I can't explain why it's funny to me. It's just really funny. And so then he travels forward to the present, and he goes to his home, to his childhood home, and I guess they're still living there. And yeah, his mom is still alive, and he comes home and they're like, "Oh, you cut your hair," and all this stuff. And he's like he's like going nuts that his mom is still alive and everything's normal, and he's trying to like slide. It's kind of creepy. Like he's trying to slide back into their lives, even though it's weird. There's like a weird, obviously he's their son, like he is their son, but I don't know, it's weird. Maybe it's also that it's Ezra Miller. Anyway, he looks back and he looks back out the window, and here's the gimmick of the film, besides the time travel multiverse shit. It's that there's two Ezra Millers, a nightmare. They can groom women, they can groom 13-year-old girls at double the speed. And for some reason, this Ezra Miller is like, this Barry Allen is several years younger than our Barry Allen, than like main character Barry Allen, right? Even though he went to the present, I thought, because this like younger Barry Allen is like, I want to say like a freshman in college, whereas ours, is older main Barry Allen is, I'm pretty sure, out of college and like working a professional job at like a newspaper or something like that, or forensic, something like that. For some reason, despite the fact they're in the present, he's younger. It's weird. Anyway, he looks out the window and he sees the younger version of himself doing, you can see this in the trailer, the funniest fucking jaunt I've ever seen. He looks like he's trying to look dumb. So Ezra Miller has to play this is basically the rub of the film, where they could have done something really fun, which is that there's an older and a younger version of the Flash. The problem is that Ezra Miller is playing both of them, and the older Flash is already not particularly likable in the performance, and Ezra Miller trying to play like, what is that, like a 19-year-old is the worst. He does this stupid fucking laugh. They do this. I'm getting the lines blurred. It's fucking annoying when you have someone who's like non-binary and they're playing a character who's just a guy, who's just a male. Don't fucking yell at me about that. They do this laugh where it's like a seal laugh. It's like, they do it all the time in the film. They're trying to act like a 19-year-old, like shithead, like shitheel Flash, and it's so annoying. I couldn't stand it. I never thought it was charming or likable, or it was just like annoying in like a bad way. There is like an extent where main Flash, older Flash, is annoyed with his younger self, but it's like beyond that. Yeah, so basically what happens is they're hanging out and they have to give, and for some reason, yeah, wait, so for some reason old Flash is like, wait, it's December 19th or whatever the date is. This is the date that I get my powers. You have to get your powers. For some reason, he decides that the younger version of himself has to get superpowers. Despite the fact that later in the film, he says you having powers is bad, or like you shouldn't have them or something. The really strange thing is that let's say the split point is when Barry Allen is like 10 years old or something. It's like roughly the age that the actor who plays him as a kid also is bad. Like, oh, this is not a good kid actor. So that there's been at least like a decade of personal development in a completely different reality. They are practically two different people. Like young Flash is basically his own person who has a very different development and set of memories and reality than old Flash. And for some reason, old Flash decides, no, you have to be like me. I don't know why or what the plan is. I think... So what they do is they go to like the lab where Flash gets his powers because he gets electrocuted by lightning and doused in chemical. It's a dumb comics thing. So they have like a weird little struggle, and the lightning hits old Flash and then goes through him and then hits young Flash. I don't think that's how lightning works. And they both get fucked up, and this somehow results in old Flash losing his powers and young Flash getting the Flash powers. Which is like, okay, what? Why did any of this have to happen? Why are you suddenly dead set on making your younger? Also, like, what was your plan, right? Like, you traveled forward back in time and then forward in time again, but there's another version of you. So what does that make you? They eventually end up explaining this where when you change something in the past, it doesn't like create two different timelines. Essentially, what he really did was split the timeline into like a cross. They basically, two timelines cross each other, where what would you call it? They basically run perpendicular, which I think is like, okay, I'm sure it's not original, but it's at least interesting for like a time travel story where you change something and you haven't actually just changed that one thing. You've basically jumped to a completely different reality where that thing happened. And any number of other things could also be different in that reality, which is the consequences of Barry Allen's actions. You're not supposed to go back and fuck with time because it makes shit weird. So he loses one. Old loses the powers. Young one gets them. Then they find out, wait, because this is weird, different universe, well, they don't really know that yet, General Zod is here, and from Man of Steel, because they could get him back, and who's gonna stop him? We don't have Superman, so we gotta go get Superman. But we gotta go Batman. We gotta find Batman first. So they go, and it's Michael Keaton. It's Michael Keaton Batman in this universe, and he explains time travel to them. Somehow somehow is aware of. Somehow Batman knows about time travel. Sure. Fine. And they're like, so let's go get, they convince him to go get Superman, who is on like some like Siberian Black Ops prison site. And they go get him. Oh, it's not Superman, it's Supergirl, played by Sasha Calle, who Kat and I both want to fuck. And they rescue her, and we have our first Supergirl action sequence. And I'm going to talk about the effects in this movie now, because they are something else. So I'll start with Supergirl, because that's where I really started to notice it. So we're watching this fight scene with Supergirl beating up a bunch of goons, right? And I'm really proud of Kat, because I think I've rubbed off on her in this way. Because we were watching it and I was thinking it, and then she said it, where she says she's animated like an NRS character. And I was like, yes, she is. She does this weird thing where, okay, she's doing Superman, Supergirl power stuff where she's like zooming around, right, while she's fighting. And when she does it, you know, if it was me, I would say, let's make like a cool looking pose or something to imply like forward movement, and then just zoom them forward with special effects, right? Something that, you know, looks like the character is bounding forward or taking off. For some reason, what they had her do was just like hip thrust. She just like hip thrusts in a direction and just boom, just propels over there. And it's really weird looking. It looks like Cabal's air dash in Mortal Kombat 11, where this does not look like a smooth movement at all. That's the best thing that I could compare it to. And there's some shots where it's like, oh, she is just punching the air in front of someone's face, and then they are getting flung to the side. It's really funny. To the point where we slowed it down on the video player to make sure. Yeah, no, she's hitting the air, and there is no contact being made. It's a bad looking fight scene. So they rescue her. They go back to the Wayne, the Bat Cave and all that, and they're like, "We need you to fight Zod," and she's like, "Sure, I'll do it. I guess." I gotta soak up some rays first. I gotta soak up some sunlight. And then they're like, hey, let's get Old Flash his powers back. So they electrocute the fuck out of Ezra Miller, which was awesome. It was the best part of the film. With this weird, it's like Frankenstein. There's like a kite that they're flying outside of like during a storm, which I don't know how they knew there was a storm coming, and and it's like a kite, and they've got him strapped to a chair, and there's some epic shots of Ezra Miller going, "Ah!" in the chair and getting electrocuted, getting crispy. They have to zap them like 3 times. It's hilarious. Sasha Calle, I think she's trying to play someone who's like a little cold. This version Supergirl is meant to be a little cold. She's very, how would I call it? She's kind of disenfranchised with the human race. She was sent there to protect Kal-El, Clark Kent, but the pod that he was on never got, in this reality, was like never landed on Earth. So she's and then she was like captured and sent and like imprisoned basically in like this what is it? I think red sunlight is what weakens the Kryptonians. So she doesn't like human beings anymore, but like she wants to kill Zod because you showed me compassion, and maybe not all humans are bad, and it's fine. I also get the sense that she just really doesn't want to be there. That's what it feels like, and they're playing it off as her being cold and damaged. But it really feels like she doesn't want to be there, and she doesn't like talking to Ezra Miller. Oh, hey, other effect shots. I thought it was kind of weird how whenever the Flash is like, whenever we're in like the Flash super speed, everything's in slow motion or frozen kind of thing. Excuse me. There's like a thing where there's like lightning everywhere and it's always zapping for some reason. Is that like coming off of the Flash? Because it's like making papers rustle and things like that. Is that happening at super speed? Are those papers flapping at super speed? I don't get it. The one thing I will say about this movie, and probably the best aspect of it, to be totally honest, is the cloning effect, I guess is what you'd call it. The whole movie is two different versions of the same actor on screen next to each other, and it is really seamless. So much so that I found that I was not even thinking about it during the film, which is, I usually think about filmmaking stuff like that, like I wonder how they got that, but I wasn't even thinking about it. It is a really well done effect, and it's not one of those like, oh, I'm gonna stand on this side of the shot and you stand on that side of the shot, and so we can easily split this up and then just composite two shots, of the same actor together and then composite them together, or even like, I'm not sure. I'm really curious because throughout the whole movie they're like right next to each other, like interacting. Sometimes they'll be like carrying each other or back to back, and it's really good. It looks great. Apparently they developed some kind of new technology to be able to pull the effect off, which the VFX director has not been able. I read like an interview about it. He's not able to say exactly what it was, but I'm genuinely really curious. Hopefully we'll find out soon, like what the filmmaking technique was. It's a really good effect. And assuming it's not like a complete technological dead end that's just impossibly annoying or way too expensive to like repeat. Could be used in like future. I could see that totally being used in future films. It's like a really, really cool. And there is, I want to say about the two Flashes, there is a lot of, there's an idea there, right? So one thing that I got the feeling of is that this is the Flash standalone movie. The Flash is a character who was introduced in 3 movies ago, and was never really an explanation for where he comes from or anything. This movie is kind of doing like origin story stuff, where when young Flash gets his powers, we have a whole sequence that's just like all the superhero origin story movies. That's, oops, I don't know how to use my powers. I'm getting into zany hijinks because I don't know how to use my powers, and I have to learn about, how to do this and that, and we're kind of like getting that plus the origin story with the excuse of, oh, it's because it's happening to the younger Flash who's never been through this stuff before. And that's fine. And also I like the idea of an older version of a character mentoring their younger self and teaching them how to be like the superhero. I think that's a neat idea. And then I thought about it and I was like, wait, that was just Spider-Verse. That was just Spider-Verse. And obviously Peter and Miles are not literally the same character, but it's older Spider-Man teaching younger Spider-Man how to be a superhero. And their dynamic is way better. The two Flashes just kind of, I don't know, they have a weird dynamic. It's like kind of like buddy cop thing mixed with like one's always annoyed at the other one, like older Flash. It's, I don't know, it didn't come across as quite as strong to me. Yeah. So, but it's fine. It's an interesting idea. It just, I don't know, it could have been stronger, I guess. I don't know. You could have. There's no real, like, okay, here's the fucking problem with this movie, and it's like the whole last third is a goddamn nightmare because none of this shit goes anywhere. None of it goes anywhere. I was gonna say, like, it needed more character development for young Flash. Guess what? Oh, dude, the last half of this movie, third of this film is fucking weird. So, it's been building up to, we need to stop Zod, because Zod is going to destroy the Earth and do his plan for Man of Steel, and Superman's not around, so that's why we need to get Supergirl, and Supergirl and the two Flashes, who they now both have their powers back, and Michael Keaton Batman are going to stop Zod. So they show up to, it's like in, dude, it's the fucking worst. It's like a shot, it's in the trailer too, it's that shot where they're all sliding forward on the ground, like when they arrive. It looks so bad. It's like they're in like a green screen ocean. They're just like floating in a green screen CGI world. But they're supposed to be like skidding across the ground in this dramatic, cool way. It's so bad looking. And the whole last act takes place in a desert. It's like in Power Rangers when they have a fight scene with the Zords, the Megazords, and oh, the city turned into a desert / warehouse district for some reason. So basically, everything goes wrong. Everything goes wrong. Michael Keaton dies. Supergirl gets fucking destroyed. And the Flashes are like, shit, fuck, this is a disaster. We need to, what if we go back in time and change and until we get it right, and change things until we get it right, be in different locations. So they both travel back in time to like 5 minutes prior, and they like, oh, I'll go warn Michael Keaton that ship has like a shield and he's gonna like, he can't see it and he's gonna crash into it and explode. I'll go help Supergirl not get stabbed in the chest by Zod because he wants her Supergirl blood. Ooh, my neck. And then they do that, and then they still die. And they're like, let's try it again. And they do this a few times, and they realize that like it's just a fucking disaster. Like the whole thing is a shit show. and they just keep dying. They just can't stop them from dying. And they keep fucking with the timeline. And they start to realize Batman, because he somehow knows about the time travel and multiverse stuff, he was like, at one point he said, like, he goes, yeah, there's like events that happen in every timeline, or are like bound to happen in every timeline. Like every Batman has an Alfred. Barry Allen always becomes the Flash kind of thing. And old Flash realizes that them dying is, if you saw the Spider-Verse, it's canon events. It's a canon event. It always has to happen. It's actually a good term for this exact situation. Thank you, Spider-Verse. It's an event that always has to happen, despite the fact that neither Michael Keaton Batman nor Supergirl would be there if not for the time travel intervention of the Flashes in the first place. So, okay. I guess in this new reality where the Flashes come together and stop and get together the Batman and Supergirl, those characters are always meant to die. So so hey, the stuff about Michael Keaton Batman coming out of retirement and going, no, let's you want to bust nuts? Let's bust nuts. And like coming back out and shaving all his hair and stuff like that and trimming his beard. And Supergirl like learning that not all humans are bad and that there's like a whole fucking emotional thing where she discovers from Zod that I guess in this universe, the key to the like Krypton, he has this big terraform planet device, and the key to it was supposed to be in Superman's blood, but it wasn't. It's in her blood, and they found Superman's like baby pod and killed him. They killed the baby. They killed Superman as a baby, and she like loses her shit and fucking like pile drives him. Like this incredibly emotional moment. And then, she just dies, and she's not going to have any kind of, like, character, like, no fulfillment. We are going to do nothing with the character and kill her off. And Michael Keaton Batman, this kind of, like, comeback arc where he's coming out of retirement, we're going to do nothing with him and kill him off. And then the rest of the film, the last, like, 10 minutes of the movie, 10, 15 minutes, 20 about last like 10% of the movie is young Flash is in denial about this being a canon event, so he goes back in time repeatedly, and there's been like these weird flashes of like a weird dark rocky monster Flash, and that's actually this whole time been young Flash going back in time repeatedly for like eons of time and trying to make this one battle play out differently and save everyone and being unsuccessful. And then he shows up and they're in like the weird time dimension thing, and old Flash is like, hey, what the fuck, dude? What is wrong with you? And young Flash is like, just, I'm so close to figuring it out, Barry. Just join me in fucking up the timeline. How the fuck does this movie end? It's like he kills him, or he takes the tomatoes out. Don't forget the tomatoes. I guess you forgot the tomatoes. And then stops. Wait, does that make sense? Wait a second. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Right? Hang on, I have to look at the synopsis. Barry reveals okay, I'm reading the... Okay, so he explains the causal loop paradox... Fuck, okay. The two Barrys travel back through time to save their companions, but are unable to change their fates. Barry realizes that they will not be able to save them, but 2013 Barry, that's young Barry, keeps trying, repeatedly traveling back through time, but always failing. As 2013 Barry travels, the multiverse starts to collapse in on itself. Oh, fuck. Now we get to the worst scene. I can't believe I forgot about this. So, the multiverse starts collapsing because Baby Barry keeps fucking up with the timeline. And the way that they communicate this is they basically show, like, different globes and, like, world universes, like bubbles, essentially, colliding in on each other. But they zoom in on these bubbles to show alternate versions of the DC characters. And they are the Christopher Reeve Superman and the whoever played Supergirl in the old one, I forget her name. The George Reeves Superman, which is kind of fucked up. If you don't know, George Reeves played Superman in the television series from like the 50s called The Adventures of Superman. And he hated the role and was basically typecast into just playing Superman, and he couldn't get any roles. And then when he was like in his 50s, he was found like dead with a gunshot wound to his head. It was ruled a suicide. It's a little iffy on whether or not it actually was. There's a bunch of like weird mob connections, but yeah, that character like ruined his life in a lot of ways. Like it ruined his career. Also, the film came out on the anniversary of his death. That's a real thing. You can look it up. Weird, kind of insensitive reference to make. There is also, they show like old, like weird little like bowl helmet hat Flash. I don't know which version of the character that is. Which I don't think is based on anything. That might have just been an original, like, hey, it's the old, like, original design for the Flash. And then they show... then it's Nicolas Cage Superman. It's like a CGI Nicolas Cage Superman, and he's fighting a giant spider. And that's like... It's the worst. It's like I felt bad watching it. Like it made me feel worse. If you don't even, for people who don't even know that there was a point where I want to say Superman Returns, there was like a casting test. There was like a screen test for a Nicolas Cage led Superman movie. There's pictures of him in the suit. It's surreal, and that's what that's a reference to. If you didn't know. And if you didn't know it and you were watching... So if you see it and you see that, you're like, what the fuck? And if you don't know what it's referencing, you go, is that Nicolas Cage but CGI? What? It's just like distracting. So they show these like bubbles like crashing in on each other and collapsing. And this is what he's doing, that all of these are parallel universes, which is... Okay, here's the thing. That's a concept that I think could work. The idea that different adaptations of a source material are actually just different universes. It's what Spider-Verse did. The problem is that the movie didn't earn it, and it's not good enough for that. I don't know why. I think it's just the movie is not good or likable enough for me to get on board with it. I am so over... Let me kind of say this. I am so over multiverse stuff. The only good one was Spider-Verse. Excuse me. That was like the one good one. There might be like one other. I thought the Doctor Strange 2 was okay. I'm really over it. There was a time when crossovers were cool, and now I'm very rapidly realizing that all the multiverse stuff is just a gimmick to sell me more things based off of nostalgia. Dude, we looked at the trailer when the trailer for this movie came out for The Flash, and it was like, what the dude? Like, how can you release this when Ezra Miller is like a freak weirdo who has these like he's like grooming little girls, and writing manifestos about being God. I think I left that out. Yeah, that was a thing. These like delusions of grandeur. And I looked down at the comments, and every single comment was how excited they were to see Michael Keaton as Batman again. And that's why. That's why the multiverse stuff exists. It's to distract you from the fact that you're watching Ezra Miller. It's like, yeah, it's a ploy to sell you things based off of brand recognition. It's no longer a fun, special, cool thing to me. It's, okay, you want my money. I guess you want my money. And again, the one exception that I can really think of that earned it was Spider-Verse. Because those movies were made with like a ton of love and care and artistry, and had like pretty good stories. And it was like doing something with the idea that was fun. And it didn't feel like, and they were doing like tons of deep pulls and to like weird Spider-Man stuff, and it was great. It's really like it earns the gimmick. It earns the gimmick. The Flash did not earn the gimmick. Right. So what the fuck? So okay. Anyway, so they show all these goddamn awful references. Eventually, the dark speedster who originally knocked Barry out of the Speed Force returns and is revealed to be an older version of 2013 Barry, who still believes he can save his world from Zod and prevent the deaths of Bruce and Kara. He explains the causal loop paradox that led to his own creation. So he's like, you prevented Mom from dying, so that created me, but you're still here. But grows angry when Barry reveals his own intention to reverse his actions by letting Nora die. So old Flash is like, we should just let Mom die. And young Flash is really mad. And then, I forgot, there's actually 3 Flashes right now. So there's like young Flash, there's old Flash, there's young Flash, and then there's future young Flash, who's like the dark, weird, rocky, spiky guy for some reason. And Spiky Flash kills young Flash by stabbing him because young Flash jumps in front of himself, I guess, and erases himself from the timeline. Which I guess, and then old Flash goes back in time and takes the tomatoes out of the shopping cart, and they replay the sound. They replay the voice line where he goes, "Don't forget the tomatoes." However, he makes a minor change in the past, which creates new evidence in the present day that proves Henry's... Yeah, so then he proves his father's innocence. So he's like, everything's back to normal. And then he calls Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne shows up, and it's George Clooney Batman. And I wanted to shoot the screen. Oh my god, it's like, what the fuck? So I guess what I was thinking, I was like, wait, if you messed with the timeline twice, even if you like fixed it, wouldn't you still be in like a new, like a new reality? And if you I don't know. I feel like there's probably a problem in the time travel rules. Like it probably contradicts itself at some point. I just can't think about it that hard. So wouldn't that create like a weird time
paradox if young Flash got killed by himself, right? Like, wouldn't that be weird? The movie never really accounts for that or says anything about it. And I guess somehow this averts the multiverse collapsing. Somehow. Because it stops him in the future. Wouldn't it? I don't fucking know. I don't know. It's also weird because it's like, wait, okay, so he can't be Spiky Flash. Spiky Flash disappears because the younger version of himself dies, right? So he, like, stopped him from existing. But also, old Flash stopped himself, like, his own self from existing by changing the timeline and making him turn into, like, shitheel young long hair Ezra Miller Flash. So why is he still around? Is this like Back to the Future rules or something? Wouldn't it just be a timeline? Why is Spiky Flash not exist anymore? Wouldn't he just go to a time? Dude, it's so weird. It's so, I don't know. It's hurting by trying to make sense of it. I was just kind of we were both left with a lot of like, what was the point of that? Like, what was the purpose? Yeah, it's like you spend so much time with these characters and then they just die and nothing happens with them. It's really weird. It reminded me of like part 8 of JoJo, where like if anyone's read that, I don't want to try to spoil it, but like by the end of that whole storyline, there's like a lot of characters who never got like complete resolution and plot points that never got totally answered and things like that. And I remember being satisfied with the ending because it felt really clear like Araki wanted to tell a story where all of that stuff was actually unimportant the whole time. And it's actually about this one really specific thing. And I kind of appreciated that in its own way. Like, no, this is a story about this thing happening. And all this other crazy shit going on is just sort of like the background dressing. It's just the external stuff to this like character arc that the main character is going on. This was like that, but without that message. Without that like intentionality. It was like unsatisfying in a way that I haven't seen since The Last Jedi. Where you're like, why did we spend so much time doing this if it resulted in absolutely nothing? And not even like an anticlimax. It's like the movie gets sidetracked. It's like it got derailed in the climax and forgot to do anything with the rest of the film. It's weird. Why would you establish all these new characters? I guess we're just not gonna have them anymore. Or maybe we will? Or we're gonna have George Clooney Batman? I don't want George Clooney Batman. What a shit show. A deeply unsatisfying film with bad performances from its lead, weird CG, a lot of unintentionally funny lines, very low impact editing. There's like one cool shot. There's like one cool action thing. And it's when Batman is fighting some guys and he shoots his grapple hook because there's a guy hiding around a corner with a gun, and Batman shoots his grapple hook and wraps it around the guy's arm, and then like yanks him towards him, and as he gets pulled towards Batman kicks him in the head. That was like the one cool action shot, I thought. Yeah. A lot of like, why are we here? Why are we doing this? Very like low impact film. Yeah. Is there anything else to say about it? I don't think so. Hilarious scenes of Ezra Miller screaming in pain. Hilarious scenes of Ezra Miller holding a baby while a woman screams, which is really dark. Hilarious scenes of awkward dialogue. Yeah. Bad movie. Is there anything else I want to talk about? I guess I could just give a quick update on like my thoughts on Boltgun, because I've been playing it more, and the game is like, okay, I was really liking it for the first chapter, and I made a tweet. It was, Boltgun's really cool until it starts turning into TNT Evolution. So if you don't know, TNT Evolution is one of 2 official expansion level packs for the original, for Doom 2. Alongside the Plutonia experiment. They are infamously... How do I describe this? They take a lot of time to complete. Plutonia takes a lot of time to complete because it's really hard. It is really difficult. You have to genuinely, to beat that on Ultraviolent like I have, you have to be like pretty good at Doom to beat Plutonia, which I am. TNT Evolution is kind of just boring. It has a lot of levels that you get to a certain point with them and you're like, this is good, I'm ready for this to be over. And then it goes on for like another 20 minutes. And that's like every level after the first third of the games. It's like 20 levels. And it just keeps going, and there's another big section, and there's, I need a key for this, and wait, where was that? Wait, where am I taking this? What was I looking for again? And you're looking at this just gigantic map with all of these areas, and you're like, oh my, okay, and you're just walking around all these corridors you've cleared all the monsters out of, and it just goes and goes and goes, and the gameplay, it's not like bad, it's just more. And Boltgun kind of starts suffering from that. It is a lot of levels, and part of this maybe could be chalked up to the fact that I'm playing on the hard difficulty. So maybe it's getting padded out a little more by enemies having more health, or me dying a little more often because they do more damage or something like that. I frequently found myself only being able to play like 1 level of the game at a time, maybe 2, because they all take like 30 minutes. And they like really drag at points. Like I hit those points where I'm like, all right, I'm kind of ready for this level to be over. And then I open a door and there's another gigantic area sprawled in front of me. And there's like an arena after it. And there's like another area. And you're like, oh, and there's all these gimmicks of like, now you're jumping from platform to platform. And each one is like this really intricate tower that you have to climb up. And you get all this shit. It just keeps going. And I'm like, this game needed like an editor. Not like a level editor. I mean like an editor for something like a book. So someone should have come in at some point during development and said, okay, cut some of this out. Like, slim the game down a little bit. It's a little excessive. Because you're at this point where the game doesn't, like, the gameplay isn't getting better. It's just getting more. Like, the base gameplay is pretty fun again, but it's like, it really hurts in the bosses, because I've passed the point. I looked up all the bosses. I've passed the point where I've fought all of the bosses at least once, and they just kind of reuse them throughout the game until I think maybe the final boss. And I get to this point at the end of like chapter 2 where I gotta fight the wizard. I have to fight the chaos sorcerer for the 3rd time, and he has so much health. There's like 100 enemies spawning all over the place all the time. And I'm just running. I don't know how to describe this. It just gets to a point where it's like, dude, can I just fucking kill him? Can I kill him already? Just really sloggy. Really sloggy. I heard things about the game slowing down as it goes on. I'm really feeling it. I think if the studio takes another shot at this genre or makes a sequel or something in the same vein, I would really hope that they go for something slimmer, show a little bit of restraint in the levels, because the pacing is not great as it goes on. It's a little yeah, that's my update on Boltgun. That's kind of all I had to talk about. Yeah, not a super eventful week. I mean, I had such a big week last time with all of the games that I was playing. So now that all those are out of the way, what do I even have to look forward to? Something, Every day brings new delights. Well, if you've been listening to this far, thank you so much for listening to me ramble. If you have a question, feel free to leave it in the comments below, but please phrase it in the form of a question, because I'm not just going to read your thoughts out loud. Excuse me. I have a Patreon. There's a new main channel video coming up pretty soon, actually. And that's it.